Dr. Michael Torres had been studying ocean floors for 15 years, but nothing prepared him for what appeared on his screen that Tuesday morning. The sonar readings showed something impossible. 3 miles beneath the Pacific Ocean, where only darkness and crushing pressure existed, sat an object that made his hands shake. "Rachel, you need to see this right now," Michael called out, his voice cracking with excitement. Rachel Bennett rushed over from her workstation, coffee mug still in hand. She was the best geologist on their research team, and she had seen plenty of strange things on the ocean floor. Volcanic formations, underwater caves, even old shipwrecks. But when she looked at Michael's screen, her mug slipped from her fingers and shattered on the floor. "That's not natural," she whispered, leaning closer to the monitor. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, zooming in on the metallic signature. The shape was too perfect, too geometric. "Those alloys? Michael, these readings don't match anything in our database. They don't exist on Earth." The object was massive. Initial scans suggested it was about the size of 3 aircraft carriers placed side by side. But unlike any human-made vessel, this thing showed no signs of rust, no deterioration despite being buried in ocean sediment. The metal composition was unlike anything they had ever encountered. Michael ran the scans 3 more times, checking for equipment errors. Each time the results came back identical. "We need to report this. This is bigger than us." Within 72 hours, everything changed. Their small research station became the center of worldwide attention. Governments sent representatives. Scientists flew in from every continent. The military established a security perimeter. Everyone wanted answers, but first, someone had to go down there and see it with their own eyes. The deep-sea submersible Atlantis 7 was the most advanced underwater vehicle humanity had ever built. It could withstand the crushing pressure of the deepest ocean trenches and had enough life support for a crew of 3 for 48 hours. Michael, Rachel, and pilot Jake Morrison were chosen for the first descent. Jake had been piloting submersibles for 20 years. He was calm under pressure, which was exactly what they needed. "Everyone strapped in?" he asked, his hands moving across the controls with practiced ease. "It's going to be a long ride down." The descent took 4 hours. They passed through layers of ocean that went from blue to black. Strange fish with glowing eyes stared at them through the reinforced windows. The pressure gauges climbed higher and higher. Outside, the water pressed against their tiny vessel with enough force to crush a car into a tin can. "Approaching target depth," Jake announced. He switched on the exterior floodlights. And there it was. The vessel emerged from the darkness like a sleeping giant. Its surface was smooth and dark, covered in symbols that seemed to dance in their lights. The symbols weren't painted or carved. They looked like they were part of the metal itself, glowing faintly with their own inner light. "Oh my God," Rachel breathed. "It's beautiful." Michael activated every sensor they had. "I'm getting readings that don't make sense. The hull is radiating heat. Very faint, but it's there. Something inside is still generating power." "After how long?" Jake asked. "That sediment buildup suggests this thing has been down here for thousands of years. Maybe longer." They circled the massive vessel slowly, their lights illuminating section after section. It was clearly built by intelligent beings, but the design was alien. There were no visible engines, no windows, no obvious entry points. Just that smooth, symbol-covered surface that seemed to go on forever. "Wait there," Rachel pointed. "See that? Looks like a breach in the hull." Jake maneuvered the submersible closer. The breach was about 20 feet wide, its edges perfectly smooth as if the metal had been melted away from the inside. Through the opening they could see corridors and rooms lit by that same faint blue glow. "I'm reading atmosphere inside," Jake reported, checking his instruments twice to be sure. "Breathable atmosphere. And something else, active power signatures. After all this time, whatever technology runs this ship is still working." Michael felt his heart pounding. They were about to become the first humans to enter an alien spacecraft. The first to make contact with technology from another world. Everything they knew about the universe was about to change. As their submersible approached the breach, something incredible happened. The symbols on the hull began to glow brighter, pulsing with that eerie blue light. It was like the ship was waking up, responding to their presence. Rachel's voice was barely a whisper, filled with wonder and fear. "Guys, I think it knows we're here." Jake positioned the submersible at the breach entrance. Beyond the opening, corridors stretched into darkness, waiting to reveal their secrets. Waiting to tell them why an alien ship lay at the bottom of Earth's ocean. Waiting to change humanity's future forever. "Well," Jake said, his hands steady on the controls despite the magnitude of what they were about to do. Only one way to find out what's inside. Michael took his first step through the breach and his stomach lurched. One moment he felt weightless in his pressure suit, the next moment his boots hit solid floor with a normal weight. He stumbled slightly, catching himself against the wall. "What just happened?" he asked, his voice shaking. Jake checked his instruments inside the submersible. "The ship is generating its own gravity field. Earth normal. That shouldn't be possible, especially not after sitting on the ocean floor for who knows how long." Rachel stepped through next, and Michael heard her sharp intake of breath. She was right. The gravity felt exactly like standing on Earth's surface. They were 3 miles underwater, inside an alien vessel, and physics was just throwing all the rules out the window. They moved deeper into the ship. Their flashlights cut through the blue glow, revealing corridors that stretched in impossible directions. The walls were smooth, made of that same strange metal. Michael reached out and touched one. It was warm. "This ship is still alive," he whispered. "I can feel it." The corridor opened into a massive chamber, and all 3 of them stopped dead in their tracks. What they saw would haunt their dreams forever. The crew was still there. Hundreds of them. Sitting at their stations as if they had just paused for a moment and never resumed. But these weren't humans. These beings were like nothing Earth had ever produced. They looked insectoid, with bodies covered in what appeared to be natural armor plating. Their heads were elongated, with large dark eyes that no longer saw anything. Each one had 4 fingers on their hands, still gripped around controls that glowed faintly with crystalline light. "Oh God," Rachel breathed, moving closer to examine one of the bodies. She pulled out her scanner, her hands trembling. "Michael, these beings are perfectly preserved. The ship's stasis field is still active. It's keeping them exactly as they were at the moment of death." Michael joined her, studying the nearest alien. The being wore what might have been a uniform, fitted to its strange body shape. There were markings on the uniform that could have been rank insignia or identification. The creature's expression, if he could read it correctly, showed no fear. No panic. Just a kind of peaceful stillness. "What killed them?" Jake asked, staying near the entrance, his pilot instincts telling him to keep an escape route open. "That's the thing," Rachel said, running more scans. "There's no sign of struggle. No wounds, no trauma, no indication of suffocation or decompression. They just stopped. All at once. Like someone flipped a switch and turned them all off." Michael moved through the chamber, counting the bodies. There were so many of them. Each at their station, each frozen in that final moment. Some were at control panels. Others seemed to be working on repairs. A few were gathered around what looked like a central command console. Jake approached the command console carefully. "Should I try to activate it?" "We came here for answers," Michael said. "Let's find them." Jake pressed his hand against a glowing panel. The console erupted to life. Holographic displays filled the air around them, projections of light showing star charts, mathematical equations, and streams of alien text that scrolled too fast to read. Then a voice spoke. It came from everywhere at once, filling the chamber. The words weren't English, but somehow they understood them. The ship was translating, converting alien language into something their brains could process. "We are the Velshera," the voice said. It sounded mechanical, yet there was an emotion behind it. A sadness that transcended species. "We are the last of the knowing species. The last who remember what came before." Images appeared in the holograms. Different alien races. Different worlds. All of them showed civilizations at their peak. Cities of light and technology. Beings of every imaginable shape and form. "We carry the memories of 47 civilizations," the voice continued. "All fallen to the silence. All who reached for the stars and found only death waiting. We hoped to escape. We ran as far as we could. We failed." The images changed, showing waves of darkness sweeping across star systems. Everywhere the darkness touched, lights went out. Civilizations fell silent. To whoever finds this message, know that you are in danger. The silence is coming. It comes for all who think, all who dream, all who have risen above their worlds to touch the stars. It cannot be stopped. It cannot be. The message cut off abruptly, leaving them in ringing silence. Michael's hands were shaking as he pulled up more data from the console. His training as a scientist took over, pushing past the fear. He accessed their astronomical records, their sensor logs, everything they had recorded about this thing they called the silence. And then he saw it. His blood ran cold. "Rachel," he said quietly. "Jake, you need to see this." They gathered around him as he projected the data into the air. It showed energy readings, wavelength patterns, mathematical models. And right there in the center was an image of Earth's sun. This is our sun, Michael explained, his voice hollow. These are current readings. And these. He highlighted another set of data. These are the energy patterns the Velshera recorded before the silence hit their system. Rachel stared at the comparison. The patterns matched almost perfectly. How long do we have? Jake asked, though by his tone he already knew the answer would be bad. Michael did the calculations 3 times, hoping he was wrong. He wasn't. 6 months. Maybe less. The silence is coming for us and we have no idea how to stop it. The research facility in San Diego had transformed overnight. What was once a peaceful oceanography institute now looked like a military command center. Armed guards patrolled the perimeter. Satellite dishes covered the roof. Inside, hundreds of scientists from every country worked without stopping, fueled by coffee and fear. Dr. Emily Carter hadn't slept in 3 days. Her eyes were red and swollen, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She stood in front of 12 computer screens, each displaying different sections of the Velshera database. The alien language had taken weeks to crack, but now it was pouring out secrets faster than her team could process them. "We've got another section decoded," called out David Park, one of her linguists. "It's bad, Emily. Really bad." Emily walked over, reading the translated text. Her face went pale. "Give me the UN Council. Right now." 20 minutes later, she stood in a secure video conference room. On the screen, representatives from every major nation stared back at her. These were ambassadors, generals, scientists, and world leaders. All of them looked as exhausted as she felt. Ambassador Tom Richardson spoke first. He was an older man, gray-haired and usually unshakable. But today, his hands trembled slightly as he gripped his notes. "Dr. Carter, you said this was urgent. What have you found?" Emily took a deep breath. "It's a death sentence. The silence isn't just some random cosmic event. It's a dark energy wave that sweeps through the galaxy in cycles. Based on the Velshera records, it happens every 50,000 years or so. And when it hits a solar system, it suppresses all neural activity instantly." "Neural activity?" asked General Patricia Hayes from the U.S. military. "You mean brain function?" "Exactly," Emily confirmed. "Everything that thinks, everything that has a nervous system just stops." The Velshera documented it happening to every advanced species in this part of the galaxy. Every single civilization that developed space travel encountered the silence. And none of them survived. Tom leaned forward, his face grim. "None? How many civilizations are we talking about here?" Emily pulled up holographic displays. Images filled the screen behind her. Alien faces of every imaginable type. Some looked almost human. Others were completely foreign. Beings made of crystal. Creatures that floated in gas clouds. Insectoid races like the Velshera. All of them frozen in their final moments. 47 confirmed extinctions, she said quietly. Probably more that the Velshera didn't find. Some of these species had technology we can't even comprehend. The Velshera themselves were thousands of years ahead of us. They had quantum computing, consciousness transfer technology, and billions of years of collected knowledge from all these dead civilizations. They still died. The room erupted in panicked voices. People shouting questions, demanding answers, some cursing in their native languages. Tom had to bang his gavel 3 times to restore order. A video window opened, showing Michael back at the Pacific Research Site. He looked terrible, his face drawn and haunted. "Emily, did they find a solution? Any solution at all?" Emily pulled up another section of the database. "They theorized one, yes. A planetary neural shield using magnetic field manipulation. The idea is to create an interference pattern that protects biological neural networks from the silence's effects." "Can we build it?" General Hayes demanded. "That's the problem," Emily said, her voice cracking. "They died before they could implement it. They had all the calculations, all the theory, but they ran out of time. The silence reached them while they were still trying to escape." Another window opened, showing Rachel from the underwater base they'd established near the alien ship. She'd been working non-stop to extract data from the vessel's computers. "Emily, I'm looking at their implementation notes. There's something strange here. They keep mentioning a problem with the shield frequency." "What kind of problem?" Tom asked. Rachel scrolled through alien equations. "Their notes say that logical minds can't generate the right frequency patterns. The shield needs chaos, unpredictability, randomness. But the Velshera and all the other species were too ordered in their thinking. They couldn't produce the chaotic input needed to make the shield work." The room fell silent. Everyone was processing what that meant. Then Rachel's voice came through again, stronger this time. What if that's our advantage? What do you mean? Emily asked. Think about it, Rachel said, her excitement building. Humans aren't purely logical. We're emotional, irrational, creative. We do things that make no sense. We dream. We make art just because it's beautiful. We feel things that can't be measured or calculated. We make decisions based on gut feelings and hunches. Michael's face lit up on his screen. She's right. Every other species the Velshera documented was more advanced than us, more logical, more ordered. That's why they failed. They couldn't produce the chaos the shield needs. Emily felt hope stirring in her chest for the first time in days. Human consciousness is messy, unpredictable. We contradict ourselves, we change our minds, we create things that have no logical purpose. Our weakness is our strength, Rachel added. Tom looked around at the other council members. Some looked skeptical. Others looked hopeful. All of them looked terrified. We have to try, Tom said finally, his voice steady despite everything. If we don't, we're already dead. Dr. Carter, what do you need? Emily straightened her shoulders. Everything. Every power grid on Earth. Every satellite. Every transmitter. And most importantly, I need every human being ready to participate. Because if this works, it won't be technology that saves us. It'll be humanity itself. The construction project that followed was unlike anything humanity had ever attempted. It made the pyramids look like sandcastles. It made the space race look like a friendly competition. This was every nation on Earth working together for the first time in history because they had no other choice. Construction crews worked 24 hours a day. Engineers from China collaborated with scientists from Brazil. Russian technicians shared data with American programmers. Money stopped mattering. Politics stopped mattering. The only thing that mattered was finishing in time. Nuclear power plants were retooled. Every power grid on the planet was connected into one massive network. The Velshera technology recovered from the ship was reverse-engineered and integrated with human systems. At strategic points across Earth's magnetic field lines, massive towers rose into the sky. They called them resonance towers, and they hummed with power that made the air shimmer around them. Dr. Daniel Webb coordinated everything from the main facility in Geneva. He was a physicist who had spent his career studying Earth's magnetic field, never imagining he'd one day be trying to weaponize it against an alien threat. His office overlooked the largest of the resonance towers, a structure that pierced the clouds and glowed with blue energy at night. The aliens used pure mathematics to generate shield frequencies, Daniel explained during a press conference that was broadcast to every television, phone, and computer on Earth. Clean equations. Perfect calculations. Logical patterns. We're doing something different. Something they never tried. Amy Rodriguez stood beside him. She was the project's neural interface specialist, and she'd been working on the most important part of the plan. The part that made them human instead of just another logical species trying to survive. We're feeding the shield with human consciousness patterns, Amy explained to billions of watching faces. Dreams, memories, emotions, art. Every broadcast signal, every piece of music, every thought that gets transmitted contributes to the chaos the shield needs. Around the world, people listened and understood what they had to do. In New York, orchestras gathered in Central Park and played continuously. Jazz, classical, rock, every genre mixing together in beautiful disorder. In Tokyo, artists painted massive murals on buildings, pouring their emotions onto canvas for the neural network to absorb. In Mumbai, meditation centers opened their doors, feeding peaceful thoughts and spiritual energy into the global network. In Lagos, storytellers shared ancient tales while children listened, their imagination and wonder becoming part of humanity's defense. Social media, usually filled with arguments and division, became something beautiful. People shared their happiest memories, their saddest moments, videos of babies laughing, clips of wedding dances, photos of sunsets and pets and family dinners, jokes, memes, poetry, confessions. The entire messy, chaotic, beautiful spectrum of human experience flowed into the network. The aliens failed because they were too perfect, Daniel said during another briefing, this time to world leaders. They thought in straight lines. Pure logic. Clean mathematics. We might succeed because we're messy. Because we contradict ourselves. Because we feel things that don't make sense. The days counted down. Space telescopes tracked the silence as it moved through the solar system. It was exactly as the Velshera had described it, a wave of dark energy that snuffed out everything it touched. Mercury went silent first. All the probes humanity had placed there stopped transmitting. Then Venus. Every satellite, every monitoring station just stopped. Gone in an instant. It's real, someone whispered in the Geneva Command Center. It's actually happening. Daniel stood at the main control panel, surrounded by screens showing data from around the world. His finger hovered over the activation switch. Amy stood beside him, her hand on the neural interface controls. All towers report ready, came the report from the communications officer. All power grids at maximum capacity. Neural network shows full participation. We're reading consciousness patterns from every continent. Daniel looked at Amy. She nodded. They had one shot at this. Shield activation in 3, Daniel announced, his voice carried to every command center on Earth. 2. 1. He pressed the switch. The towers erupted to life. A sound like singing filled the air, but it wasn't quite music. It was something between a hum and a heartbeat. Earth's magnetic field, invisible for all of human history, suddenly blazed with impossible colors. Aurora lights danced across the sky in places they'd never been seen before. Green, purple, gold, blue, all swirling together. The silence hit. Every monitor in the command center turned red. Alarm klaxons blared. People grabbed their heads, feeling something pressing against their minds. For 10 seconds that felt like 10 years, nobody breathed. Then the red faded. The alarm stopped. The pressure vanished. Daniel stared at the readings, not believing what he was seeing. Did it fail? The emergency broadcast system crackled to life. Jakarta reports all clear. Population conscious and responsive. Tokyo checking in. No casualties. Shield holding. Moscow online. All systems functional. Beijing reporting successful shield integration. More cities reported in. New York, London, Cairo, Sydney. Every major population center responding. Humanity was still alive. Daniel looked at the shield readings. It flickered and wavered, weakened but holding. The chaos of human consciousness creating patterns the silence couldn't suppress. Amy's face was wet with tears. The chaos worked, she whispered. Our beautiful human mess actually worked. Around the world, people emerged from shelters and looked up at the sky, at the impossible lights still dancing across the heavens. They had survived what 47 other civilizations could not. Not because they were smarter or stronger, but because they were human. Three months after the silence, Rachel stood in front of the Valshera ship's central database. The alien vessel had become humanity's most important research site. Scientists lived and worked inside it now, learning from technology that was thousands of years beyond anything Earth had created. But today something different was happening. The database was transmitting. Broadcasting on every frequency imaginable. Radio waves, quantum signals, energy patterns that humans were still learning to detect. The ship was sending out a message, and that message was simple: humanity survived. Rachel watched the transmission code scroll across the screens. She'd been living on the underwater base for months now, barely sleeping, driven by a need to understand everything the Valshera had left behind. Her hair had grown long and she'd stopped caring about how she looked. None of that mattered anymore. Rachel, you need to see this, Jake called from the communication station. His voice had that quality it got when something amazing was happening, that mix of excitement and disbelief. She hurried over. Jake was staring at his screens with wide eyes, his hands frozen over the controls. We're getting responses, he said quietly. Dozens of them. Automated beacons from dead worlds, all activating at once. They've been waiting out there, silent for thousands of years, waiting for any sign that someone survived the silence. Michael joined them, pulling up the data streams on the main display. Numbers and coordinates filled the holographic screens, each one representing a signal from somewhere in the galaxy. His hands moved quickly through the data, his scientific mind processing what they were seeing. They're not dead worlds, Michael said, his voice shaking. Look at these signatures. Stasis pods. Emergency shelters. Underground bunkers. There are survivors out there, probably billions of them, sleeping through the silence. Waiting for someone to find a solution. Rachel felt her breath catch in her throat. All those species they'd seen in the database, all those civilizations the Valshera had documented, they weren't completely gone. They'd hidden. They'd hoped. They'd waited. The database began displaying locations. The Valshera had documented every species' last refuge, every hidden colony, every desperate attempt at survival. Crystal cities buried deep in ice planets. Entire populations frozen in suspended animation. Generation ships drifting through empty space, their crews in stasis. Thousands of worlds with thousands of desperate plans. They'd all failed because the silence kept returning, wave after wave through the millennia. Every 50,000 years, another wave swept through the galaxy. Any civilization that woke up between waves would just face destruction again. So they slept, and slept, and slept, waiting for a miracle that never came. Until now. What are you thinking? Rachel asked Michael. She knew that look on his face. He had an idea and it was going to change everything. Michael turned to her, his eyes bright. The database is teaching us their technology. I've been studying it for weeks. Faster-than-light travel, quantum communications, energy generation systems that make our nuclear plants look like campfires. Everything we need to reach those survivors is right here. The Velshera left us the keys to the galaxy. You want to wake them up? Rachel asked. I want to save them, Michael said firmly. We need to share the shield technology with every sleeping civilization out there. Humanity survived because we're chaotic, emotional, and stubbornly irrational. Maybe that's not a weakness. Maybe that's exactly what the galaxy needed all along. 5 years passed in a blur of construction and learning. Humanity absorbed alien technology faster than anyone thought possible. The same desperate energy that had built the planetary shield now drove them to reach for the stars. The USS Endeavour stood on the launch pad in the Mojave Desert, gleaming in the morning sun. It was the first human ship capable of reaching other star systems, built using a combination of human engineering and Velshera technology. Behind it, in shipyards across Earth and in orbit, dozens more ships were under construction. Captain Emily Carter stood on the bridge of the Endeavour, wearing the dark blue uniform of Earth's new space fleet. She traded her lab coat for captain's bars, but she was still the same person who'd first decoded the Velshera database. The same person who'd barely slept while searching for a way to save humanity. Earth shrank behind them as the ship rose into space. Emily watched her home planet become a blue marble, then a dot, then disappear entirely. In her quarters, mounted on the wall where she could see it every day, was a photograph of the Velshera crew. Those insectoid beings frozen at their stations, who died hoping someone would finish their work. They saved us by leaving us their knowledge, Emily said to her first officer, Lieutenant Brian Foster. Now we save them by sharing our humanity. The Endeavour's engines hummed as the ship prepared for its first faster-than-light jump. But that wasn't the only sound filling the vessel. The ship's computers ran on the same chaotic frequencies that had powered Earth's shield. Music played through the corridors. Art covered the walls. The crew's thoughts and dreams and emotions fed into the ship's systems, creating patterns that protected them from the silence. Other ships would follow. Some carrying scientists to wake the sleepers. Others carrying engineers to build shields around their worlds. Still more carrying diplomats and teachers and artists, ready to share humanity's gift with the galaxy. As the Endeavour jumped to faster-than-light speeds, its computers hummed with music, laughter, dreams, and the beautiful mess that made humans impossibly, uniquely, perfectly human. The galaxy had been silent for so long. 50,000 years of death and darkness. Civilizations rising only to fall. Hope dying over and over again. But now, spreading out from a small blue planet, a new sound was emerging. Chaotic. Emotional. Irrational. Human. The galaxy's long silence was finally ending. And humanity was singing.